Let's go!
When people think about iconic video game characters, there is one that immediately comes to mind above the rest. Regardless of your generation, this answer for a lot of folks is the same. People think of Mario, this joyful plumber who always seems to be saving the day time and time again. When I ponder about Mario, I am often baffled by everything that this character contains. This plumber is the master of everything, and for those who have watched my analysis video on Mario being a superhero, you know that he's more than meets the eye. But one thing has always bothered me about this character. Just how old is he? Recently I did a video that covered the past of Mario's grandfather and the history behind him, but our modern day Mario has always been a mystery. In terms of Mario's age, we have two things to go off of, but honestly, I don't believe either of these in my heart. First off, we have his Melee Smash Bros. Trophy, which states he is 26 years old. Unfortunately, Smash Bros. Hasn't always been the most accurate across the board, and in many instances has made mistakes. Because of this, many people deem it not to be canon, as the people who wrote these descriptions may have not been fully informed due to how many trophy descriptions have errors. For the second, we have an interview that recently surfaced from 2005, stating that the only thing Miyamoto planned for Mario was that his age was around 24 to 25 years old. Now obviously, it seems pretty crazy to rule out what the creator of Mario says about Mario. But I think creating a character who's designed for a specific age and what that character grows to become over their legacy are two different things. This is why so many people online blew up over this statement, because in their eyes, 24 to 25 years old does not make any sense at all. And rightfully so. Because of this, I want to drop everything we are told and actually calculate this guy's life realistically. Because we know he isn't a breakdancing doctor whom is also an Olympic athlete at the ripe age of 24. While anything can be taught, learned, and worked towards, all these things realistically take time. So let's wind back the clock and start to tally up some events from his life that we know takes certain amounts of time to achieve. Starting off, if Mario has indeed achieved doctor status, then it is safe to assume he is at least 29 years old. Given that he had to have gone through proper schooling in order to be a doctor, if we go by the United States standard, that would put him at the age of 18 as he started college to pursue his career for the next 11 to 15 years. 4 years in undergraduate, 4 years in medical school, and then a variable range for his residency. But this in itself causes problems because Mario has had a ton of different jobs. Because of this, it isn't right to assume he went for his doctorate degree right away, as it wouldn't make sense to study for a decade to then go back to a field that requires less study. In the past, it is apparent that Mario has also worked in the construction industry, as shown in the Wrecking Crew duology. It is also apparent that he had once owned a cement factory as well, since the Game & Watch era game is called Mario Cement Factory. In addition to this, Mario and Luigi also worked in a bottling factory at some point too. And as this self-titled game, Mario Bros. In the Game & Watch era was re-released several times over the years, it was changed to a cake factory and then a cookie factory. If we rule out the re-releases, that still puts us at 2 games as a Wrecking Crew, 1 game as a bottle factory employee, and then 1 game as a company owner of the cement factory. This changing of jobs to then opening a factory could have probably taken place on a cycle of 3 years, given how adamant Mario is, and assuming he didn't stay at each job more than 6 months. Now, one could argue that this could be Jumpman, who is also believed to be separate from Mario as he was a carpenter and not a plumber. But the issue with this is that Luigi is present at this point in the game. This first game, Mario Bros., features him in the factory, and then the other games came out later that year. Like I covered in the video of Mario's grandfather, if these two were present during this time, then they should have aged just like Cranky Kong did. Obviously, apes age at different rates, but these plumbers should have at least changed somewhat during this process. With all that said, let's add 3 years to the count. But Mario apparently also went to war as well. Perhaps he was drafted from his factory job? It is strongly believed that Mario's bombs away was in reference to the Vietnam War, based on the uniforms and the jungle environment. Now, at what point Mario crossed over from the human world to the Mushroom Kingdom is unknown. He was fighting creatures in the sewers of New York too at one point though. If this does parallel to the Vietnam War though, the draft for the war took place in 1969 and the war ended in 1975. If he was drafted at the start, this would give us 6 years, assuming he remained there the entire time for some reason. If it wasn't with the first draft though, it could be less. For the sake of factoring this in, we'll go with a middle ground number as it may be inaccurate to count all extremes. We'll add 3 years to his age. It is worth noting he had to be at least 18 years old though to be considered for the draft. So, perhaps fresh out of school, Mario was drafted to fight for potentially 3 years, came home to work in construction and a factory environment post-war for 3 years, and then jumped into medical school. So far, this gives us 18 plus 3 plus 3 plus 11. We'll go with 11 for the doctor range so we can determine his lowest possible age. This has Mario sitting at 35 years old so far. However, there is still a lot more to consider. In Mario vs. Donkey Kong March of the Minis, we once again have Mario who owns another company. But this company is very well established, and he even later on opens up a theme park through it. Actually, make that 2 theme parks. Now, for a corporation to get to this size and be this viable, that takes quite a deal of time. In fact, it would probably take over a decade or more for this to occur. Businesses that are starting off fresh usually take 2 to 3 years to become profitable, although this time frame is different for everyone. Given the size of the organization, the amount of product, and the fact that the 2 amusement parks were open with funds gained by the business, this had to have taken a long time. The roller coasters of today can be anywhere from $25 to $50 million each, or even much more. If you have 2 parks full of roller coasters, Ferris wheels, and other attractions, this cost gets really high, really fast. In order to make this money, your business would have to be very successful, which takes time. You don't just open up a toy factory and instantly become rich. You have to reach out to stores and have them sell your products, and these relationships take time to develop. On top of that, if you don't have the capital up front, it takes many years to accrue the revenue to even expand the building before even considering these theme parks. There's a possibility that Princess Peach may have fronted the money for Mario, but it's uncertain if that is something she'd actually do, or even could do, considering she may not have absolute approval. So, given all of this, 10 years would probably be the minimum that Mario would need assuming everything went well. And that is if he is totally lucky. If we add that to our formula, Mario is now pushing 45 years old, with everything rounded down. However, let's not forget that Mario is a professional breakdancer, an all-star tennis player, a racing extraordinaire, and has gone on countless adventures that all add time to his life. Hypothetically, a lot of these adventures could have taken place while Mario's company was still being built, so those could be ruled out to some degree. What can't be ruled out is Mario's other skills. Popping over to the real world, Malcolm Gladwell is known to be the one who coined the 10,000 hour skill mastery concept. Essentially, after 10,000 hours of a skill, you will be world class in that skill. Obviously, this study can be heavily flawed in terms of the exact number of hours and the quality of the practice, but the bottom line still holds true. That is about 416 days if you never stopped. If you practice 8 hours a day, you'd actually need 1,250 days to completely master a skill. Mario has mastered tons of skills, so hypothetically, even if he was professional level, let's say halfway there at 5,000 hours of total practice time, because let's be honest, Mario is pretty much an all-star at everything he does, that is still 625 days of 8-hour practice per skill, which boils down to 1.7 years each. So let's see, professional breakdancer, flares don't come easy, that's 1.7 years. 1.7 for extreme motorsports driver, 1.7 for professional grade tennis player, basketball player, soccer. Olympic Games should classify as world class, shouldn't they? They rank beyond professional to some degree, and the first games had 20 different events and Mario qualified for them all. At this point, it is almost impossible to account for everything. Even with those 5 skills I named off before, if we consider that 2 of these skills were mastered during Mario's time at his company, which obviously is just an estimate that really can't be justified, that puts an additional 5 years of Mario's life, bringing his age to 50. And this is without even being able to determine how long and when his role as a plumber came into play. So by rounding down on everything, we arrive at 50, whereas those same calculations with other variable values could push Mario easily into his 60s. This is all before even considering his Olympic skill set, which rightfully shouldn't be possible. Now obviously one could argue that this game logic wasn't meant to be strung together, which you're probably right. But on the same front, if it is present, it is part of the lore. When constructing a life timeline, it has to be considered. However, all these other characters alongside Mario also have similar abilities too. Does that mean they are just as old? It really makes you wonder, what is special about these people? With Mario beyond his 60s if we factor in Olympic training, there is really something weird about these humans. It's almost as if they don't age properly, unlike poor Cranky Kong. However, EGAD appears to have aged properly. One could argue that time travel may have something to do with it, or that the events in Super Mario Galaxy series showcase just how old things really are, but I actually think something different is afoot. However, that is for another time and another video. In my eyes, Mario is almost 60 years old if the Olympic series is considered. But now that I dumped it on all of you, I'd of course love to hear your thoughts. I believe Mario is at least 60 years old since I was pretty generous with some of the time frames in this video, but on the same front, I'm sure I didn't cover everything as well. How old do you think Mario is? Do you have your own theoretical timeline for how Mario's life panned out? And last, why do you think the characters don't age properly? Whereas in other series we often switch characters or aging does occur. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And with that, thanks for tuning in to this life recap of our favorite plumber. If you'd like to join me on my YouTube voyage and take a long winding trip through your favorite characters' lives, then the subscribe button is just what you're looking for. Thanks for watching, guys and gals, and until my next video, cheers. You've made it to the end of the video, but wait, your quest isn't over yet. Recently, SwankyBox split into 2 channels. I recommend swinging over to my new channel for those who like my nostalgic videos. I just put out a new one on Jolly Roger Bay from Super Mario 64. I hope you enjoy.